He was about to say, "I do," when his past walked in, holding a boy who looked just like him. This is not just a story. It's a moment that changed everything. Hi, my precious family. How are you today? If no one has told you yet, please hear it now. You are loved. You are needed. And your life has meaning. You are not just a viewer. You are part of something deeper. May peace follow your every step today. May joy meet you in unexpected places. And may the love you give out come back to you, doubled. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for being here. Now take a deep breath, and let's begin this powerful story. My name is Ethan Caldwell. I'm the CEO of a tech company people like to write about. They say I'm focused, disciplined, and never lose control. But all that changed the day I saw a boy who looked just like me on my wedding day. It was supposed to be perfect. I was marrying Juliana Ray, a woman who came from a polished world. Her father was a former ambassador. Her mother ran charities. We met at a business gala, and within months, we were engaged. The wedding was set at a private estate outside Brighton. White flowers, silver chairs, a live string quartet, everything planned down to the second. On the morning of the wedding, I stood by the tall windows of my hotel room, watching light pour in. My best man, Henry, joked, "Last chance to run." I laughed, but my stomach was tight. Not nerves, just something I couldn't name. By noon, guests were seated. I stood at the front, the sun warm on my face, waiting for Juliana to walk down the aisle. I remember looking around and thinking, this is what success looks like. Then everything changed. A woman stepped into the back of the garden. She was quiet, not dressed to impress. Her green dress swayed as she walked. Her hair was pulled back, and she held the hand of a boy, maybe 5 or 6 years old. They didn't walk down the aisle. They just found a spot near the back and stood. At first, I couldn't see clearly, but then the boy looked up, and I froze. He had my eyes, my nose, my exact frown from childhood photos. It was like seeing a ghost. People turned. Someone near the front whispered, "Isn't that Tessa Monroe?" Tessa. I hadn't heard her name in almost 7 years. We were together in university. She was my first real love. We broke up when I got a startup deal overseas. I left for New York, and she stayed behind. We never spoke again. Until now. I dropped the ring I was holding. Henry leaned in. "Do you want me to ask them to leave?" "No," I said. I stepped down, walking slowly through the aisle. I could feel people watching, whispering. I didn't care. I stopped in front of her. "Tessa," I said, "what's going on?" She didn't smile, didn't cry, just looked me in the eye and said, "This is Liam." I crouched down and looked at the boy. He stared back, calm, serious. "How old are you?" I asked. "6, he said. My heart pounded. I looked at Tessa. "Is he?" She nodded. Then I heard Juliana's voice behind me. "Ethan." I turned. She was at the end of the aisle, holding her veil, her dress gathered in her hands, eyes wide with confusion. "What's going on?" she asked, stepping closer. I didn't know how to answer. Tessa spoke instead. "He's Ethan's son." The words cut through the air like glass. Juliana froze. "Is this true?" "I didn't know," I said quickly. "I had no idea." Tessa said nothing. She looked at Liam, then back at me. Juliana's face fell. "You have a son, and you didn't tell me." "I didn't know," I repeated. People stood. Some left. The music stopped. Juliana's father came forward, trying to take her arm. She pulled away. "I can't do this," she whispered. Then louder, "I won't marry someone who hides this kind of secret." "I didn't hide it," I said. "I swear." She turned and walked away. The guests scattered. A few stayed behind. Henry put a hand on my shoulder. Do you need me? No, I said. I turned back to Tessa and Liam. I don't understand. Why didn't you tell me? I tried, she said. I sent a letter to your New York office. It came back unopened. I thought maybe you didn't care. My hands shook. I never got it. I didn't come to ruin your wedding, she said. Liam started asking about his dad. I thought he should see you once, even if it was just from afar. Liam looked up. Can we go now, Mum? She nodded. Her eyes were tired. I knelt down. Hi, Liam, I said. Hi, he replied. Do you like robots? He smiled just a little. Yes. I build them, I said. Maybe one day you can help me. He looked up at Tessa. Can I? She didn't answer. I stood and faced her. Please, don't leave yet. She paused. Why? Because this changes everything. We stood there, in the middle of a broken wedding, surrounded by silent guests and scattered petals. My future had just taken a turn I didn't expect, but for the first time in years, something felt real. Not perfect, but real. And I wasn't going to let them walk away again. After the wedding fell apart, the crowd scattered. Some left quickly, some stayed behind, whispering and staring. I didn't care about them. I could only think about the boy, the one with my eyes, Liam. He stood beside Tessa, holding her hand tight, his small fingers wrapped around hers like they'd done it 1,000 times. And maybe they had. I hadn't been there for any of it. Not his first steps, not his first words, not his first smile. I had missed everything. We left the garden quietly. No driver, no limo. I asked Henry to cancel everything. He didn't ask questions. He just nodded and took care of it. Tessa agreed to meet me at a cafe nearby. It was small, quiet, and tucked between two brick buildings near the coast. The kind of place I used to visit before I became Ethan Caldwell, CEO. We sat outside. Liam had a cup of orange juice. Tessa drank tea. I didn't touch my coffee. I just looked at them. Tessa looked older than I remembered, but in a beautiful way. Her face had changed. Less soft, more strong. Like someone who had carried more than her share. She looked at me. You can ask anything. I cleared my throat. Why didn't you try again? I did, she said. After the letter came back, I sent an email to your company address. I got no reply. I blinked. I have assistants. They sort through. I know, she cut in gently. That's why I stopped. There was no bitterness in her voice, just tired honesty. I looked at Liam. He was drawing with crayons on a napkin. I leaned closer. What are you making? A robot dragon, he said. Why a dragon? Because they fly and breathe fire. I smiled. I like that. He glanced up at me. Mum says you build things. I do, I said. Mostly software now, but I used to build robots in school. Cool. His eyes lit up for a second and then went back to his drawing. I turned to Tessa again. He's brilliant. He is, she said, pride in her voice, and kind. He loves puzzles. He hates broccoli. I smiled again, softer this time. What else? He sings in the shower. He sleeps with one sock on. He makes up words when he doesn't know the real ones. We both laughed. Then the smile faded. I missed all of it, I whispered. Yes, she said quietly. You did. There was a long silence. Finally, I asked the question I had been afraid of since I saw him. Does he know about me? Tessa nodded. He knows your name. He knows you live far away. He knows we used to be close. Does he know I didn't choose to leave? She hesitated. No, she said, because I didn't want to confuse him. I nodded. That's fair. We sat in silence again, just watching Liam scribble. Then Tessa said, He's yours. You don't need a test, but if you want one, I won't stop you. I shook my head. I don't need one. I looked back at Liam. I want to know him, if that's okay. Tessa folded her hands. What does that mean? I don't know yet, I admitted. I don't want to force anything. I know I don't deserve a place in his life, but I want to earn it. She watched me for a long moment. I never wanted to raise him without you, she said. But I didn't want to beg either. I told myself if he ever asked, I'd find a way. And he asked? He saw a father and son playing in the park. He asked where his was. That hit me hard. I looked at Liam again. This time, not just as a child, but as a child missing something. Missing someone. Me. I turned to her. Can I see him again tomorrow? Let's see how today goes. I nodded. That was fair too. When we left the cafe, I walked them to their car. Liam turned to me before getting in. Do you want to see my robot tomorrow? I'd love that. Cool. He got in. Tessa looked at me. I'll text you, she said. And they were gone. Back at the hotel, I sat alone in the quiet room that was once meant for a groom. The suit I had worn still hung on the door. The ring sat on the table. But everything had changed. I took out my phone. I scrolled past work emails, news alerts, and marketing campaigns. None of it mattered right now. I opened a blank note and typed, Things I want Liam to know. 1. I didn't know. 2. I want to be here now. 3. You're the most important thing I've ever built. 4. I want to learn everything about you. I stared at the list. Then I hit save. Later that night, I dreamed of a boy in a dragon costume, laughing as he flew around a garden. I watched from the side, unsure if I was allowed to join, but in the dream, he stopped, smiled, and waved me over. The next morning, I woke up to a text. Tessa, he asked if you were still coming. We'll be at the playground near the coast. 10 a.m. I stared at the message, and for the first time in years, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. The next morning, I arrived early. I parked across from the coastal playground and stayed in the car for a minute. I watched the wind roll over the sea. It was quiet out here. No buildings, no meetings, no judgment. Just a boy I didn't know yet, and the woman who used to know me best. When I walked toward the playground, I saw them. Liam was on the swings. Tessa sat on a bench nearby, her coat buttoned up, hands folded in her lap. She spotted me and smiled a little. It was cautious, careful. I gave her a nod and walked over. Hi, I said. Hi. Thanks for letting me come. I didn't do it for you, she replied. Then her expression softened. I did it for him. Fair. Liam ran over as I knelt down. He didn't hug me. He didn't pull away either. He just looked up and said, Can we build the robot now? I smiled. Not here, but soon. I brought something for you, though. I pulled a small puzzle box from my coat pocket. It was made of metal and wood, something I had designed years ago in college. It clicked and twisted in weird ways, just the kind of thing I loved at his age. He took it, turned it in his hands, and his eyes lit up. Cool. And just like that, a piece of the wall between us dropped. We spent an hour together. Liam talked more than he did the day before. He told me about his favorite books. He said his teacher made him sit next to a girl who always chewed her pencil. He said he wanted a dog, but Tessa said no. I laughed. She said no to me once too. He grinned. Did you listen? Sometimes. I caught Tessa smiling out of the corner of my eye. Later, we sat on the grass. Tessa sat nearby, pretending to read. I leaned closer to Liam. Can I tell you something? He nodded. I didn't know about you before, but I'm really glad I know now. He looked at me. His voice was small. Are you going away again? I felt the words stick in my throat. No, I said firmly. Not this time. He didn't reply, but he leaned his head against my arm. I didn't move. That night, I went home and packed a small bag. I couldn't stay in a hotel anymore. It felt like hiding. I called my assistant and told her to cancel all travel for the next 2 weeks. I told her not to reschedule anything. I'll explain later, I said. The next morning, I rented a short-term flat near the coast. Nothing fancy, just a place where I could breathe and figure out what this next chapter meant. A few days later, Juliana called. I hadn't heard from her since the wedding. Her voice was flat, controlled. Are you happy now? No, I said, but I'm getting there. There was a pause. I loved you, she said. I know. And now everything's in the news, reporters outside my house, my family embarrassed. I'm sorry. Another silence. Then, I hope he was worth it. I didn't respond. She hung up. The story had leaked online. Tech CEO leaves bride at the altar after secret son appears. Photos, theories, gossip. I ignored all of it. Instead, I started meeting Tessa and Liam every other day. At first, it was awkward, but slowly we built something that felt natural. One day at the park, Liam held my hand without thinking. Tessa noticed, but didn't say anything. Later, while he played nearby, she turned to me. What are you really doing here, Ethan? I knew what she meant. Are you here because of guilt? No, I said. Pity? No. Then what? I thought for a second. Because I want to. Because he's my son. And because I still see you, even after all this time. She looked at me for a long while. Then she said something that hit deeper than I expected. I'm not the girl you left behind. I know. And I'm not asking for anything. I know that too. But he deserves a father who shows up, not just for the sweet parts. I nodded. I'm not leaving again. That weekend, I invited them to the flat. Liam sat at the table, building a robot from a kit I ordered. Tessa stood in the kitchen, making tea. She looked at me and said, "You were always good at making things work." "I'm trying," she smiled. "I can tell." Later that night after they left, I sat by the window. I thought about the wedding that didn't happen, the future that got erased, the woman who had every reason to hate me, but chose to let me in again, and the boy who didn't ask for any of this, but still looked at me like maybe, just maybe, I could be someone important. The next morning, I called my lawyer. "I want to update my will," I said, "and I need paperwork for shared custody options." This wasn't about making up for the past anymore. It was about building something new, even if it came with broken pieces. 6 months passed. The leaves turned golden. The air grew cold. But for the first time in a long time, life felt warm. I had made a choice, not just to stay, but to show up, fully. Liam and I met almost every day now. We built things together. We read books. We played football in the backyard of the flat I had bought near the coast. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't big, but it felt like home because he filled it with laughter. Tessa came around more too. At first, she kept her guard up, but slowly, she relaxed. She saw I wasn't here to impress her. I was just here. One evening, she brought over dinner. I lit a few candles, not to set a mood, just because I'd learned how good it felt to sit down and be present. We ate with Liam between us, telling us about a joke his friend told him at school. It was silly. It didn't even make sense. But we laughed anyway. It wasn't a romantic dinner. It was a family dinner. And it felt real. Later that night, after Liam fell asleep on the couch, I walked Tessa to the door. She turned to me and said, He talks about you all the time now. I hope good things. She smiled. All good. He calls you his robot dad. I laughed. I'll take it. She looked at me a little longer. Then she asked, Are you happy? I thought about it. Not the kind of happy that fades when things go wrong, but the kind that grows quietly. Yeah, I am. She nodded. Good. She started to turn the doorknob, then paused. You've changed. I've had a good teacher, I said. She didn't answer that. She just left with a small smile. The next day, Liam had a school project. Build something that represented his family. He came to my place with a box of cardboard, glue, and plastic pieces. We sat at the table for hours, cutting, sticking, and painting. He made a tall tower, 3 levels. On the bottom was a robot with big arms. On the middle, a figure with long brown hair. On the top, a tiny boy with a red cape. What is it? I asked. It's our house, he said. The robot is you, the one in the middle is Mum, and that's me on top. I get to fly. I looked at the messy little tower. It was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. That evening, I told Tessa about it. We stood in the kitchen while Liam slept upstairs. He sees himself on top, I said. He feels safe, she replied. He knows we'll catch him. I looked at her. We're doing okay, huh? We are, she said. Then silence. Then something I didn't expect. She stepped closer and hugged me. Not long, not dramatic, just a quiet, full hug. Like thank you, like I see you, like I remember. I held her for a moment and let go. Thank you, I said. For what? For not giving up on me. A week later, I got an invitation to speak at a business summit in Berlin. A huge event. I was meant to be a keynote speaker. The old version of me would have jumped at it. Instead, I emailed them and declined. They asked why. I replied, I'm building something more important. It takes time, and I don't want to miss a moment. That weekend, I took Liam to visit my parents. They hadn't seen me in months. When I introduced him, my mother's eyes filled with tears. He looks just like you, she whispered. My father nodded and reached for Liam's hand. Welcome home, son. I didn't realize how much I needed to hear those words myself. Back in Brighton, the days felt full. School drop-offs, homework at the kitchen table, rainy day puzzles, late-night talks with Tessa on the phone. No spotlight, no applause, just life and love. One night, Liam asked me, Do you think you'll ever marry Mum again? I smiled. Why do you ask? He shrugged. You both smile a lot, and you make her laugh. I kissed his forehead. Let's just keep building things, okay? He nodded. But if you do, can I be the best man? You'll be the boss of the whole thing, I told him. He grinned. That night, I wrote in a journal I had been keeping since the day of the wedding. Just one line. He came into my life as a surprise. But now, he's the reason I live with purpose. Tessa came by the next morning. I had made breakfast, bad pancakes, slightly burnt toast. She laughed when she saw the mess. You never could cook. I'm learning, I said. We sat, we ate, we laughed. Liam talked the whole time, and I thought, maybe we don't need a wedding. Maybe this was the commitment that mattered most. Being here. Every day. Weeks turned into months. Spring returned. And one evening, as we all sat under a tree in the garden, Liam leaned against me and said, You're not a robot. You're just my dad now. I looked at Tessa. She nodded, and I knew. The broken vows didn't matter anymore. The past didn't matter anymore. Only this love, this child, this quiet happiness. Because, in the end, it wasn't the company I built or the woman I almost married that defined my life. It was a boy who walked into my world with my eyes, and rewrote my story. Not with noise, but with love. And that's the end of today's story, my beautiful family. If this touched your heart, even just a little, please like, share, and subscribe so more souls like yours can find stories that heal, inspire, and remind us what really matters. Here on PaulSeries, we don't just tell stories. We build bridges. We open hearts. We remind each other that even in the mess, love still wins. May peace walk with you. May joy knock gently on your door. And may you always remember, you matter, you're loved, and your story isn't over. Until next time, stay soft, stay strong, and stay with us.